Hello, everybody. This is my son. I'm glad you're tuned in. This is for the culture live. You know, this is our second episode. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in. We didn't give a lot of advance notice about it. You know, currently I'm out of town. I just finished meeting with my sister Sabrina Fulton, and I'm actually doing this broadcast live from one of the young black females who were in the Parkland shooting. We came and visited with one of the families. She's a very intelligent young girl named Mei Ling, and I'm doing this live from her house right now. Basically, this episode is going to be based on my delegation to Palestine. Some of you may know, most of you probably don't. About 2 weeks ago, I went on with a delegation to Palestine. Where I met with a lot of different people, seen a lot of different things, and basically what I seen in Palestine, excuse me, had me outraged. You know, there's pretty much an ethnic cleansing going on in Palestine. I don't really refer to it as Israel because I feel like the Palestinians' land have been taken from them. We went to areas where the Palestinians are living in refugee camps, forced to live in refugee camps, where they are living in somewhat inhumane conditions. They told us stories of how soldiers come to their camps and they shoot tear gas and rubber bullets every night, how they just come through there where nothing is going wrong. They're arresting the kids. You know, there's so many different things that's happening in Palestine, and I just wanted to talk about it. But I wanted to get somebody who is very much more educated on myself. I have some insight after going there and actually seeing and speaking and feeling, you know, what's going on in that country. But I wanted to bring somebody who's been fighting for Palestinian rights, and I didn't really understand. Like I didn't understand her drive until now. Like until I actually went there, I didn't really understand where it came from. And she was talking about Palestine, and I knew she was a good person, and I knew how dope she was. And she kept saying that our liberation is bound together. When black people get free, then her people could be free. And I never understood it. And when you look at what's going on in Palestine and on the Gaza Strip and how over 60 something people were killed in the last couple of days, you know, in a protest because the people are tired of being pushed in the Gaza Strip. People don't even understand that you can't even leave the Gaza Strip. So I wanted to bring my sister because she got a lot to do and she agreed to come in. My sister, Linda Sarsour, and to give us some insight and pretty much tell us what's going on, give us a little more historical background, more than I can because I've been there. But she's an expert on what's going on in Palestine. So I hope my sister's there to join us. Linda, Linda Sarsour. She should be tuning in any second.
You hear me?
I hear you, Linda.
How you doing, Mice? I'm so honored to be with you right now on the show. I'm going to be starting a speaking engagement shortly at Stanford, so I want to share with you, and I appreciate your experience that you're sharing with the folks that love you and your followers that are out there. And I'm Palestinian, so I'm not just pro-Palestine. I haven't been fighting for the Palestinian people, though Palestinian people are my people. My parents were born there. My great, 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 great grandparents were born there. They're indigenous to the land of Palestine. And, you know, Palestine is the Holy Land. It's where Jerusalem is. It's where, you know, all of us share those stories in the Bible. Jesus, you know, that's what connects us. All folks who believe in God are connected to that land. And what's been happening is that for 70 years, in 1948, the state of Israel was created, and 750,000 Palestinians were displaced from their homes so a new people can create a land there. And people had to lose their homes. Palestinians are the largest refugee community in the diaspora in the entire world.
So
And
wait, they just created Israel. How did that come about? Just
they through killing, through pushing people out of their homes, through buying people's land. They literally displaced 750,000 people to create the state of Israel, and 750,000 people who were Palestinian Christians and Palestinian Muslims, pushing them to the West Bank and some of them into countries like Syria and Jordan. And some of these Palestinians have still lived in those regions for generations now, in these refugee camps around the world. Many Palestinians came to the States like my parents did. As you know, my parents are immigrants who came here from living under military occupation. And in the last few weeks, these Palestinians, in particular in Gaza, which is not an area that you were able to visit because you're not allowed to go visit there. It is a part of Palestine that is under siege by the state of Israel. 2 million people live in a very small strip of land in the world's largest open air prison. They have barely have electricity, barely have running water, high rates of unemployment, literally a hopeless people. Israel controls all the borders, so they can't go in or out of Gaza. They don't control the airspace. They don't have a military, no tanks, no snipers, no, absolutely nothing. And they've been marching on the border now, called the Great Return March. And in the past, as you know, you saw in the past few days, Trump decided to open an American embassy in Jerusalem, which outraged the entire world, because Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine, and putting the embassy in Jerusalem basically sends a message that the United States has recognized that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, which the entire international community told him is not a good idea. And because of that, Palestinians in Gaza have been protesting. And as you know, 55 people were killed in just one day. Imagine if in the United States of America we killed 55 people with snipers in one day, our country would be outraged. And that is what's happening to the Palestinian people. They have shot at doctors, at medics, at journalists. They actually have killed journalists who are trying to cover what's happening in Gaza. The youngest casualty has been a 8-month-old baby girl who was in a tent, and she choked from the tear gas that they were throwing. So what people have to understand and is that, why are they protesting? People are saying, why would you go to the border if you know there's going to be violence? And what I say to people is that when Dr. Martin Luther King and his marchers walked over the Edmund Pettus Bridge, they knew that Bull Connor was on the other side, and they knew they were going to be met with violence, and they knew that they potentially might lose their lives. But you know what? Dr. Martin Luther King and his marchers went anyway. And the people of Gaza deserve to go, even if they know that they might be met with violence, because they deserve the right to protest for freedom and dignity and liberation. They are being treated like caged animals. And when you and what the international world has to understand is that, what do they expect them to do? Just sit back and say, oh, I will be a perpetually caged animal for the rest of my life and for generations to come? They will resist, and that is what the people of Palestine are doing. They are resisting a long-standing illegal military occupation that is funded by our taxpayer dollars. So we give Israel, the state of Israel, $10 million a day. I'm going to say that again, $10 million a day, but we don't have
wow.
money. We don't have money for schools in Chicago. We don't have money for healthcare in this country. We have people living in poverty in the United States, unemployment, but we somehow find $10 million a day to give a state to occupy a people. So that's why this issue is so important to me, and why I connected so much to the struggle of Black people in America, and the way that Black people have been dehumanized in this country, vilified in this country, how they have been forced to live in conditions and communities in poverty, low quality education, you name it, it's happening. And you saw it with your own eyes. Same thing is happening in Palestine,
Yes.
stripping the Palestinian people of their humanity. So that's why I always say, if Black people are free, and when Black people get conscious about Palestine and they get free in America, they're going to help us get free in Palestine.
So so wait a second. You can't get off the Gaza Strip or on the Gaza Strip.
Mm-mm. Their borders are controlled. One side is controlled by Israel, and one side is controlled by the country of Egypt in partnership with the state of Israel. So these people literally live in a prison. They cannot leave and travel. They cannot go and vacation with their family to, another country and take their families out of the country. They literally are not allowed to do that. And people have to understand that they have limited supplies right now. They can't even treat the wounded because they don't have the generators. They don't have enough electricity. Like, there are going to be people who have gunshot wounds that are not going to be able to be saved because Gaza does not have the resources. And they're deprived of the basic necessity, basic human rights. It's almost outrageous that this is happening in 2018.
So and they also were telling us that they estimate by the year 2020 that the water supply should be over there. That they
Yeah,
won't
that
even have
they
water.
won't it be the water will be too contaminated that people will not be able to consume the water. That's why when we think about what's happening in Flint, it connects to what's happening in Palestine. Water is a human right. Every single human being on this earth deserves access to clean water. The fact that the people of Gaza do not have access, the fact that people in Flint do not have access, oftentimes people of color and poor people, this is where the alignment comes, where we have to fight for these things, because these things are not an American right because you're an American. This is a human right for every human around the world.
So, so what do you say to the people? Because people are saying, well, why do they just run to the gate? You know they're gonna get shot. Like why they just run? Like it's their fault, and they're doing this for a photo op and for things like that. Like what do you say to those people?
It's the same reason why kids marched through Ferguson with their hands up. It's the same reason why Dr. Martin Luther King organized the March on Washington. It's the same reason why people across the world fight for their liberation in their countries. Why does everybody else in the world get to fight for their liberation and go protest, and the Palestinian people are not allowed to protest? Why is there a particular expectation that these people are supposed to sit back and be like, it's cool. We like living in a prison. We don't need electricity. We don't need clean water. Like these people believe they're worthy. They are human beings. They deserve these things, and they have every right to protest, just like you and I, Mice, have been protesting on the streets of the United States of America, the streets of New York. You and I have a right to protest what the grievances we have. And you know what? They too are human beings and have the right to protest. And like I said before, they know there's violence and they know they're going to be met with violence. But you know what? Malcolm X said this. He said, freedom. If you're not willing to die for freedom, take that word out of your mouth. And the Palestinian people have always been freedom fighters.
That's right. I went there and to see how humble they are and how they're still in good spirits and and how loving they are, understanding, walking through the town. I sat. It was one older man that made me cry. He was talking about he's probably like 80 years old. He's living in one of the concentration camps, and
Mm-hmm.
he explained how he was a young boy when the Nakba came
Mm-hmm.
and they killed his father. And
Mm-hmm.
he was talking to us, and he was like, we are good people of pride. He said, the world looks at us like we backwards or things like that, but we have pride. And how
Mm-hmm.
would you feel if someone killed your family and took
Exactly.
you out of your home? Like, what would you? And it brought tears to my eyes because oh, I really at that point understood what my forefathers, what our ancestors actually went through.
Mm-hmm.
Like so when I think about it, I'm like, wow, this is really crazy to see these things happen and now actually feel that. And I understand that y'all living through the same struggle that we've been going through, and it's the exact same struggle. And if we don't tie it in
Mm-hmm.
together, then it's never going to be any freedom. They have
Absolutely.
walls through the town that
Mm-hmm.
the lady who was telling us, like, one day we just woke up and they just built walls. They just were
Mm-hmm.
building walls. People who lived across the street, they lost their homes. The
Mm-hmm.
wall was built there. They have where people have property where they couldn't even come out their property, had to climb out the windows because they occupied it and said that this was their land. So they had to
That's right.
climb out windows and they sealed up their doors and all these things. And I was like, I couldn't even understand, like fathom that,
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me a whole different reality. I came back and I was like, wow, we are so uninformed and misinformed
Mm-hmm.
about what's actually going on there. Like people are saying, oh, they just don't, the Palestinians just want to go to war. They wage war. It's them. They're creating this, and I'm like, it's not. I don't think they create. I don't. How would you feel if you woke up one day and somebody told you you just got to get out your home and go, and that's it. Just get out. We don't know where you're gonna go, or we're gonna put you over here where there's nothing that, or y'all just sit there in a jail for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and when I tell people what's going on, they're so like shocked, like, nah, that can't really be what's going on. I'm saying, no, that's
That's
exactly what's
exactly
going
what
on.
happens. I mean, what the alignment that I have is that we always have to justify our humanity. Like every day, I got to defend the right for Palestinian people to live, just like we got to defend the right for Black people to live. Like when a Black man gets shot by a police officer, everyone's always like, "But what did he do? But why did he? What did he do before he got shot?" Or they'll say, "Oh, but he was a criminal. Oh, well, he smoked weed 3 years ago. Oh, he was wearing a hoodie." We're always trying to find excuses for Black people of why they deserve to die. It's the same thing with the Palestinians. They're always trying to find every reason why a Palestinian should die, but no one's ever making excuses of why they should live. And the fact that we always have to defend our humanity, we are human beings and we deserve to live that way. And wage war, how? You saw there, we don't have a military. We have no way to wage war against a powerful military and a powerful state that is well funded. You saw the Palestinian people, they barely have their own government, right? They don't have any control over their travel. You saw the checkpoints. You have to go through checkpoints. Some of the people who have Palestinian identity card, they can't go through to certain parts. Like they might not be able to go into Jerusalem. Like there are activists, as you know, who were not even let into, and they were on your delegation, who were not even let in. They were deported back to America. Why? Because a country that's supposed to be a democracy doesn't like people who engage in dissent. If you got nothing to hide and you're so great and you're so wonderful, why didn't you just let the people in? You turned away a professor at Columbia University. You turned away the executive director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. If you're in the right, let them come see what you're doing in the right. So
Right.
what? So the Palestinian people have been going through this for 7 decades, 70 years. Mice they've been going through this, and they will continue to resist. So Mice, I appreciate you informing your people. I'm gonna be heading out now to go do this speaking engagement. Well, I'll also be talking about this there.
Yes.
Keep speaking truth to power. We got your back all the time. We appreciate you, and may God give you all the success in the world.
I got your back. I'm here for you. I
I
love you so
appreciate you.
much. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you,
Thank you.
brother.
All right. That was my sister Linda Sarsour. She is, if you don't know her, then you need to look her up. She's unapologetically Palestinian and unapologetically from Brooklyn. And she's she made me go on this delegation. You know, she came to me and said, "Brother, I need you to go on this delegation. This is gonna take your level of knowledge and understanding of why the work we do is so important." She said, I really need you to go on this. So I said, I'm gonna go because my sister needs me to go. And going there, just looking, they have concentration camps full of little kids and older people, and just they building homes on top of homes as they continue to bring these people into these concentration camps, refugee camps they call them, rather, these refugee camps. um there's not enough room, so if you have a house they build another layer, and some of these houses fall apart. Some of them are not even able to hold up. They have water in which they deliver water to them monthly. They deliver, and if you run out beforehand, then there's days and weeks that they don't even have water. When you really understand, you know when you look at slavery and you look at apartheid, you know it's the exact same thing. It's apartheid. It's the same thing that was going on in South Africa, the same thing that we've dealt with slavery, where people misplaced, and we came here misplaced and just told to figure it out. And that's what's happening with them. They're taking their homes, and the Gaza Strip is the most inhumane thing I've ever heard of in my life. What they're doing to them in Gaza, where you can't 2 million people, because they're continuing to thrive. 2 million people are forced on a island that is smaller than Rhode Island. In Rhode Island here, it's the smallest. You have 2 million people on there, and they don't even have resources. They're not allowed to leave or come out without a work permit, and most of them aren't going to be able to leave this, so they just stuck on the strip. They can't fish. They used to be able. The main thing they do is fish. They had about 20 miles of water that they had. The perimeter was that they were able to fish. And every 2 or 3 years they cut it. So now it's probably about 1 mile that they have just to fish. So their resources are cut off. This is inhumane. I wanted to ask somebody else to tune in, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to her right now, because she was outside and she really wanted to cook, and she was another one of the young ladies who I was on the delegation with. Her name is Diala, and she's a Palestinian woman also, and she was pretty much like our guide. This is her picture. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get her to tune in right now. She had really wanted to, but she's a lawyer. She's actually in America, but she's a Palestinian, She was born and raised there, and her family lives there, but she works in America. She's a lawyer here, and she was pretty much like our guide on the delegation. And our delegation was so powerful because we had people from all sides. We didn't just meet with the Palestinians who were telling us things were bad. We met with some of the Israelis that we met with former soldiers of the Israeli army who told us, who took us to Hebron. If the city of Hebron really broke me down. Hebron was one of the Palestinian cities, and it was pretty much what I believe all of the dispute is about over where these certain religious figures were buried, and that's where they got their claim from. I don't want to speak because I'm not actually absolutely sure what I believe. I know Hebron is one of the major cities that they fought over, but it looks like a ghost town now. And this soldier, former soldier, took us through Hebron, showing us how the Israeli army came and pretty much displaced everybody. They took their homes from them. The settlers came there. That's where they came. The settlers came there and they moved the Palestinians. They broke their windows. They moved into their house. They kicked them out. Some met fate. They were fatalities. They and then when they came in there, they told them that this part of our belongs to us, and y'all stay over there. They welded doors shut. They took over certain, say, okay, we need this, and until they pretty much just pushed them all the way out. And you can see the difference between where the settlers live and where the Palestinians live. It's so much of a disparity in how they live. You can tell they have no resources. It's an ethnic cleansing. They plan to have they plan to have by 2020. They want to have 70% of Palestine be Israeli and 30% Palestinian. And there is a master plan. They say there's a master plan to pretty much just wipe them out. What they're doing on Gaza is pretty much you have 2 million people there, and if you look at Palestine and the Gaza Strip and what it used to be and how it has shrunk the territory, how much of it they own now, you'll understand why they're angry. You'll see that there is a direct plan to pretty much get them out. They're waiting for them to die pretty much, and it's sad to say. So when you hear that the Palestinians are revolting and they're protesting and they're getting shot and they don't have weapons and they have rocks, they're being shot down by people who have AR-15s. Kids are being killed, and the only weapons they have is rocks. You have to ask yourself, what is it? Why are they protesting? And like Linda said, the same reason that Martin Luther King did the March on Washington, the same, and knowing that Bull Connor and them was going to be there when they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the same exact reason, because we understand that there might be casualties in order for us to gain our humanity back, pretty much. This is not even about justice or civil rights, it's human rights. Humans have the right to have water, clean water, and have supplies. There's no way that one group of people should have so in excess when people have nothing, and that's a human right. So when you look and you see and you hear that over 50 people were killed on one day, and you ask, why are they doing it? Because they're fighting for their rights. They're fighting for their lives. They understand that they're going to die on this island anyway. They understand that the master plan of this whole thing is for them to be ethnically cleansed. And it's a sad reality when you understand what's going on. And I really wanted to dedicate this show to it because we are so misinformed in America. When we were leaving, like she said, when we first got there, the leaders of our delegation were denied access into the country. A Jewish woman and a white man and a black man who have done nothing wrong. They lead organizations, prestigious organizations. They were denied access because they didn't agree with what's going on in Palestine, because they talked about how they felt it was wrong. So when they were um when they were detained, we had just got through. We didn't raise any red flags, so they let us go through. And they originally only stopped the first woman who was with us, Emily. And when she came out, the other two were waiting for her to make sure she was all right. And when they came out and they seen him walking to them, they grabbed all three of them. And then they were looking for the rest of our group because they were really just going to deny all of us access. You know, they were going to deny all of us access to the country. And for what? We didn't. We just were going to find out what was going on. We weren't there to cause any harm. None of us were violent. None of us had any reason to be denied access to the country. But they were looking for us. We found out that they said, "Where are the rest of the guys you with?" So we had just left the airport before they detained us. But when we got back, you know, they asked us a bunch of questions. They pretty much searched us for about 4 hours, went through everything that we had. One of our guys who took had his journal with him. His journal was taken from him because he wrote about what he seen. And they told him that they were gonna keep his personal journal. And I'm saying to myself, why are you afraid of the truth? If this is what's going on, if everything is right, like Linda said, if everything is all right, why are you afraid of people coming back giving their perspective of what's going on? This is a democracy that everyone is living in so much united. And I've had arguments on my page when I post about what I seen, and people say, "Oh, you just went one place, you didn't do this." No, I went a lot of different places, and I seen the disparities. I seen the difference between how some people are treated, some people have and some don't, in the same way I see that in America. And I just really wanted to highlight and talk about those things. I'm glad that Linda was able to tune in, man. If you haven't been paying attention over the last few weeks, they have been protesting at the Gaza Strip because on May 15th was the date that they had declared the first Israel was established. So the establishment of Israel means the death of Palestine. So they've been protesting because they've never agreed with Israel occupying and settling and taking over their land, you know, and colonizing their land. And they've been in the 55 that were killed was only that one day. Prior to that, I think there was about 20 who had been killed throughout the weeks because it was like a 6-week protest. And it pains me that our government gives $10 million a day. She said we give $10 million a day to fund something like that. We don't have money for school. We can't put our kids through free college. Healthcare is up through the roof, but we can give them, the Israelis, $10 million to pretty much to fund apartheid. So I think everybody who's here, a lot of y'all gonna be like, man, black people got their own stuff to go through. Man, I ain't worried about what nobody going through over there in Palestine. Palestine ain't worrying about me. I ain't worried about none of that stuff. What I'm worried about is my family. You know, we got to be very careful. I'm sorry. We got to be very careful that we allow. There's all these notifications coming. I don't know where this is coming from, but we got to be very careful that we don't allow ourselves to believe that our struggles are different. The same thing that's happening in America, and we look 1 minute, Shakisha Clemens is being choked by the police, then the next minute, a Palestinian is being shot down at the border. You know, 1 minute, we dealing with gentrification in our communities, and we dealing with the how nitrogen problems the same way they're dealing with it. It's all of it is connected, and it's the same struggle. So don't sit there and say don't worry, what we ain't got to worry about the past. No, we do have to worry about it. You know, we all going through the same level of confusion and injustice. And if we realize that, then it'll be a lot easier for us to get through it. You know, we start understanding that these struggles intermingle and they intersect, and we start figuring out how we can change it and how we can unite against it, then we'll be a lot better off. You know, so I'm not going to talk too much. I'm glad that y'all were able to tune in. This is going to be a short one, but I want you to just think about this. Look up what's going on in Palestine. Look up the Gaza Strip. Look at how there's an ethnic cleansing going on. Look at how these people are being pushed out of their land, how they're being killed. And look at how our government is funding it. And ask yourself, what do you want to do? What is it that you're willing to do, sacrifice? What is it you can do? You know, there's so much we can do, we just don't understand our power. We have a lot of power and we have a lot of say so about what our government, where our tax dollars goes. I think it's imperative that we use our tax dollars properly and use our power. You know, our government, we're dealing with a lot here, and it all intertwines. When you see that Trump wants to build a wall, then you think about the walls. When I think about the walls that they're built all through Palestine and how they divided, pretty much, I've never seen anything like this. You only hear about it in movies, but to actually see soldiers. Imagine if where we go through the toll bridge, there were soldiers there to show identification. You know, imagine if you really had to deal with those things. What would you do? You know, it's a lot, man. And I just want us to be aware, do some education. You know, let's not support companies that support what's going on in Palestine. Let's not support people that support what's going on in Palestine. Let's let's do our due diligence. Let's pay attention. You know, let's deal with humanity. Thank y'all. Episode 2. I know we tuned in a little late. I wanted Diala to come on, but she was out. But once again, thank y'all for tuning in. We'll be tuning in. We'll be back on next Thursday at 8:30. Maybe not next Thursday. We're gonna do it every 2 weeks. So we're gonna tune in Thursday after next. Look up Palestine though. Please, if you don't know what's going on, if you haven't been informed, if you haven't seen, I don't know how, if you're not, but if you haven't seen what's going on lately, I want you to tune in, find out, look it up. It's imperative. It's imperative. And also, if you're going to be anywhere near Alabama, Atlanta, we got buses leaving from Atlanta. We're doing a march for Shakisha Clemens to get, because she was charged. If you don't know who Shakisha Clemens was, she was the girl in the Waffle House in Alabama, and she was charged with crimes after she was tossed to the ground and choked by an officer. So we're going to do a march to demand that her charges be dropped. You don't get to beat us up, hurt our women, and then charge them for crimes. So we'll be marching on Sunday. So if you anywhere in Alabama, please come out. We're going to be at Saraland, and we're going to be protesting out there. It's going to be a lot of people out there. We want your voice to be heard. It's strength in numbers. People always ask me, why do you keep marching? No, marching doesn't change that. And I say that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Because marching, you get to identify allies. When you march, you get to show the numbers, the strength in numbers. When you march, you give somebody who's advocating for what you want a voice. You give them opportunity to show that there are so many people behind them. So this is how legislation is made. This is how change is made, because people realize that the person who represents you has all of these people behind them. Their votes, they transfer into votes. They transfer into what the people want. So when you see a lot of people advocating for one thing and the government is for the people, then those are the people that shows that this is what the people want. So please, if you're there anywhere in that area, or if you just want to come in, we love for you to have. You can tune into my page. I got the fly on my page. We'll be doing a march on Sunday for Shakisha Clemens. I appreciate y'all, and I love y'all. Peace. This is For The Culture.